Hey guys, today we are working on my 03 G35 and we are going to be replacing these brake pads and rotors. You can see in here, this just looks horrendous, really bad. This is what pad slapping looks like. Keep the same old rotors for a long time and just keep putting new pads on there. At this point, when I drive, even when I'm not even on the brakes, there's so much rust and these rotors are just so bad that the back will just squeak and squeal even when I'm off the brakes. So it's time to replace these. Car on the ground, wheel on the ground. These are 21 mils. Yep. With a breaker bar, break them on the ground. Okay, once you break both lugs on both sides, if you have a big jack, you can jack the rear of a car up through the differential. It's a solid piece of the car. We're going to jack this up. If you have a smaller one, you can just jack it up on the pinch weld where we're going to put the jack stands at when we get this up in the air. So we're just going to pump this up. Right here is our pinch weld right here. Solid piece of metal. Get your jack. And we're just gonna let it rest. On the jack stands, just like that. Here, another thing I like to do is, because these tend to sit. Now I do have the parking brake on. Remember this, when you're working on back brakes, the parking brake is in the back. I have a traditional style where the drum is in here. Notice this thing is hard as a rock. So we're gonna have to release this when we go to take it off. So I like to spray around here too, because it likes to get a big rust ring around here and it's hard to remove. First thing I like to do is, this is an 8 mil. I like using a 1/4 inch so that you don't bend this in any direction. It's really easy to break these. When you're doing brakes, I always recommend cracking this rusts easy. And when I like to do brakes, I always like to bleed out the old caliper fluid in here. So every time you do brakes, I always recommend, even if you don't plan on bleeding it, just crack this out, like crack it just to make it move. So now that we got that cracked, I like to use a one-man bleeder kit, working with a 14 mil. I have a box head wrench right here. Okay, remember, lefty loosey, righty tighty. The bolt is not facing us, so we're actually going to turn clockwise. Get here. I like using this wrench extender. It's like a breaker bar in tight places. I'm gonna come right here with it. Yeah. All right. Sometimes you just need a good old sledgehammer to get the job done. And that's what we're gonna do. That's one, and this is 2. Okay, pull this out, start working you out as well. Cool. And she's out. Good. Now we can pull this up and out. Let's try this again. I'm gonna put this right here, because why not? And I want to kind of demonstrate what I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna take these old pads off. All right. And I'm gonna use the pad right here as a backing plate so that our air comes in. And then with that being said, we're gonna just compress this piston back. These brake pads are pretty new, so they won't go back that far, so that's okay. Yeah. Now pull this out. like I said, you can see here, these brake pads are really new. They got plenty of meat on them, so this won't compress back that much. But now we can work on removing our caliper bracket. This is what holds the caliper and the brake pads on the car. Here we go. Good. She's off. And then the next one is right here. And as you can see here, I'm interfering with the multi-link suspension part. So we're gonna transfer to a 17mm wrench instead. Now, good. Just like that. She's coming off. Do not lose these washers. If you lose this washer, the stud might make contact with the rotor. So it's essential to not lose this stud right here. Pull this off. There you go. Same thing on this side. Now I have new brake hardware, so I'm gonna remove this. Pop these off. Always good to replace these every time you get new brakes. That's off. Now we want to clean this surfaces here and here. Big old wire brush, and we're just gonna this is our new hardware. Let's install this. Okay, before we install our new clips, I like to use copper anti-seize. This is like a lubricant that will minimize any sound from brake hardware. So I'm gonna put this on right here. I put copper anti-seize on the surface so that when this goes on, some of them snap right into place, some of them have a little bit of play. But when you put brake pads on, sometimes these clips, if they can shimmy in any way, you'll get like squeaking or little bits of chatter. The copper anti-seize, if this moves at all, this will mitigate and you won't hear any squeaking. As you can see right now, you don't hear anything. And that's what I like to use copper anti-seize on the back of this for. Then we're gonna install this. Good. Now we have our new brake hardware installed. Let's work on getting our rotors off. Now remember, I have the parking brake on right now. If I try to remove this when the parking brake is on, we could damage it. So let's go inside the car and let's put it down. All right, it's gonna grab this right here, put it down. All right, notice now we can spin this. But, oh, and it came off. Excellent. We don't have any rotor studs, right? So if this didn't pop off, we would have to get our hammer right here and bang, 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 bang it out. So I'm just gonna pull this up. And this is our parking brakes, which actually looks good, has a nice amount of meat on it, which is what we want to see. Let's just get some brake clean here. Just clean that out, all that brake dust and stuff that is generating here. With the wire brush, we're going to clean this up. Alright, now to prevent the new rotor from freezing to the hub, I am going to put anti-seize around here, regular anti-seize or multi-purpose grease, but I got anti-seize. And we're just gonna paint this just like this. Alright, so This is my new rotor. This is a slotted rotor to be specific. If you just drive your car normally, regular blank rotors are perfect. I mean, they're perfectly fine. I'm gonna restore this G35 and I want it to brake like an animal again. So these have slotted. These slots give the brake pad extra bite and keep the pad clean for superior, just overall great braking. If you want to go with some kind of sport rotor, I would avoid drilled rotors. Slotted rotors and dimpled rotors are the best ones to go with. Sometimes you can get slotted and dimpled, but in my opinion, I think slotted rotors are hands down the better rotors of the group. Now remember, anytime you mod your car in a certain way, aftermarket things come with some kind of con. And the one kind of con is slotted rotors will kind of, if you brake hard, you can kind of eat up the brake pad a little bit faster, and you might feel it in your brake pedal a little bit when the rotor kind of when the pad digs into the rotor pretty good. And not only that, most slotted rotors or drilled, dimpled, whatever, is directional. Make sure you pay attention to the direction if it has one. They do have unidirectional slots, but this wants to go in a certain rotation, so make sure we don't mess that up. I'm gonna pull this off. I don't think I need it. This has a coating on it, but you can spray this here and here and just wipe it down with a clean paper towel. Okay, and now I'm gonna line this up here with this. Okay, and slide that on. Beautiful. I want this to have a little bit more resistance. My parking brake clicks 13 times, and the owner's manual only wants to click 6 to 7. So I'm actually gonna adjust this by, hold on, let's pull this off. And we need to see which direction is loosey. Okay, I think it's going down. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think going down, yeah, is expanding it. All right. Now, cars that have normal drum brakes, like actual drum brakes for the car, they have a adjuster screw on it. So as these brake pads wear out, they continue to stay on the rotor. However, parking brakes don't do that. They don't have that adjuster screw or that locking screw, so we have to adjust it ourselves. So I'm gonna slide this on like so, and we're just gonna get in here, and I'm gonna keep adjusting this until I feel some resistance. We're gonna go inside the car and test and see what the handbrake feels like, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Before we was at 13 clicks. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that's firm. That's beautiful. That's exactly where we want to be. Put that back down. Okay, now with this on, see how I can still pull it off, and then we're just gonna slide it back on, and notice that we still can turn. You're gonna feel a slight bit of resistance, and that's okay. Hold on. I'm gonna back it off just a little bit. I'm gonna back it off about, I'm gonna go in, spin. I'm gonna try it again. You should feel slight resistance, but nothing too crazy. Jesus Christ. There we go. And just like that. Okay, yeah, that feels good. Slight resistance is okay. When you know you can just reach for this and pull it off, then we know we're good. Yeah, so we're good here. All right, let's clean this back off. Get a smidge of that copper anti-seize again, and when I say a smidge, I do only mean a little bit. And we're gonna go right here and here and here. These This will allow the pads to slide on those new hardware without making any noise, if any at all. And I'm gonna do the same thing here and there. Yeah, nothing crazy. If you goop this up, you'll get a lot of debris in your brake hardware. You don't want that. All right, I like to put a small smidge of lock thread on here. Small dab. Lock thread is really strong. But what people don't know about lock thread is it also prevents it from rusting. It prevents rust from getting into the bolts, and it keeps them firm. So now let's get these on. Ain't gotta kill it, but we're gonna aim for somewhere probably in the 80 foot-pound range. So with this, hit it again, and with my wrench extender, perfect, just like that. Here, beautiful. All right, good enough. Now let us install our brake pads again. Brake pad here, I'm right here with it. All right, and then this goes right here. Notice I'm not touching the actual brake pad material itself. And boom, we're in. Nice. Let's get work on getting our caliper on. Basically, I'm gonna put something called Loctite on here. I used to put copper anti-seize on here, but anti-squeal shims, I heard from dealers that they don't like that. They don't recommend it either. So they told me about using this Loctite glue, which actually kind of holds the caliper on the brake pad and reduces any squealing. So get a little bit of this right here, and you know, we're not gonna go crazy with it, but let's make sure got a nice smooth surface. Okay, then we're gonna get this on here like this. And now one of the last big lessons is when you drive, your wheel does wobble a little bit, so does your brake pads. Need to do the same thing. Okay, they need to shimmy side to side. If you don't, if these are dry, what can happen is your brake pad can ride on the rotor, and that's when you'll see one pad looks a lot more worn down than the other. So make sure, get yourself some silicone paste. I recommend this. And we're gonna be kind of liberal with it. Some cars you'll see they have like a black kind of goop. That's like an old kind of brake grease. When it gets dry, it hardens and it basically will bond in here, and that's what we don't want. Silicone paste is superior. So get this right here. Nice. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on the bottom. Okay. Now, these don't get torqued down nearly as much. These usually only get torqued down around 20 foot-pounds, so I'm kind of just gonna give it a little, that's it. A little snug. One of those things you don't gotta be perfect with, just like that. Alright, so now we installed new brake pads, new rotors, new hardware. We cleaned up, we're gonna introduce new brake fluid in here. You gotta pump the pedal when we're done. Obviously do both sides. And we got our slide pins lubricated properly. Now, when you take your car for a drive, do not just do not get in the car and just floor on the brakes. That's a terrible idea, okay? Brake pads have to bed into the rotor. If you see here, if you see how it got like an indentation in the rotor, brake pads break into the rotor. And for like the first 100 miles, just be easy on them. You know what I mean? Just brake moderately, brake normal, but don't drive super fast and dive into the brakes. If you do that too early in the car, you can warp your new brake rotors, and then they'll get wobbly and shaky. That's a big mistake a lot of people make when they get new brake pads. They just want to get in the car, do 100 miles an hour, and just dive into them. First 100 miles, just drive normally, brake normally, to break those pads in correctly, okay? So thanks for watching, you guys. Till next time, out. Bye.